Call the meeting to order. All those that can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, roll call, please.
All board members are present this evening.
Okay, the agenda, approval of the agenda. We have an item that somehow got missed in the last meeting or something, but we need to add it to this one to complete the process. It's an adoption of zoning amendment Z029 to amend the Highland zoning ordinance. So what? You can't hear me? Okay. Talk louder. That ain't gonna happen. Is that any better?
Yeah.
All right. I did turn the speakers kind of away, so who's out there that, hey Jim, would you rotate that speaker over there this way a little bit, please? Good. Yep, that'll work. And then that one over there, same thing. I know your name. I can remember your name. How's that one? That's good. That'll work. Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to add the item that's on the modified agenda that's on the on your table in front of you to be an item 9B and listed as adoption of zoning amendment Z029.
I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. The vote, please.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Hall votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis, yes. Mr. Hamel,
Emily, yes.
motion carries.
Okay, next item is a consent agenda. Get a motion to approve.
I move to approve this, what's the name of it? Consent agenda.
Support Salvia.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Hall votes yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Emily, yes.
motion carries.
All right, announcements and information. The Highland Activity Health Fair Tuesday is October 10th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Farmers Market on Saturdays at Milford Road and M59 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's been going very well, very successful. Anybody else have anything they'd like to comment on?
I'd like to talk about something real quick. I think it was Saturday morning, we lost Mike Stevenson, who was a phys ed teacher at Highland for like 25 years and coached in the district for like 50 years. And I got to coach them at Walled Lake Western and at Muir, and great friend of mine, a mentor. And he had cancer and he went very quickly. He didn't suffer, which was good, but it's a big loss for our community. And I mean, a lot of kids that went through Highland had him some influence, and it was pretty cool. On Saturday, the Milford boys, maybe the girls too, I'm not sure, but the cross country team, Coach Salyer's been holding on to the Highland Middle School sweats or something. And so they wore those, which is pretty cool. And then Mike's grandson ran like the third fastest time in sophomore history that day. So it's pretty amazing. So yeah, a big loss for me, a big loss for our community. And he was a great guy. And you went to Highland, right?
Yep.
You probably had him. So
No,
you didn't.
I was before his time,
That's right. That's right. Because you're older. I forgot.
a couple of years.
So anyways, big loss for the community. And if anybody's interested, the visitations at Lynch in Milford, 2 to 8 or 12 to 8 on Thursday. They wants to pay their respects. So anyways,
All right, thank you.
yep.
Very sad. Anybody else have anything you'd like to say? Okay, we'll go into public comment. Anybody have a public comment? Okay, I'm gonna go with this fella first. because I know you've got some things to say. Oop, let me turn you up. Go ahead.
Testing. Very good. Thank you, Rick. My name is Jay Pastana. I live in Highland Township, 928 Joshua Drive. And I'm here representing my wife Denise Pastana, who is the president of the Huron Valley Community Coalition. She had a medical procedure this morning. She's home resting, watching the school board meeting at the same time. She has a public comment I'd like to make to Highland Township trustees. On behalf of the Huron Valley Community Coalition and Huron Valley Schools, Denise would like to thank Rick and the township trustees for partnering with us to keep our students safe and substance-free. Thank you for trusting the coalition to use the opioid settlement funds to make a difference in our community. Our first project is to restock our supply of Datura prescription disposable bags. They safely neutralize and dispose of expired or extra medication for people who can't get to the drop box. Keeping extra pills out of the hands of those seeking them for unintended use is important, and they use biodegradable packaging. We take our mission very seriously. We work tirelessly to serve the students in the community and continue the message of leading our teens to a lifestyle that is drug and alcohol free. Thank you, Denise Pastana. Thank you.
It was definitely the right thing to do with that money. I mean, drug is a problem. Drugs are a problem. And if you're going to take money from the lawsuit that's all about the problem, then it should go to alleviate it. So I think that's the most appropriate thing we could do with it. So thank you. Any other public comments? Yes, ma'am.
Deanne Craw, 3165 Beaumont Drive. Before I begin, I want to give the board here some photos and a letter to help them better understand. So let me approach. So let me start with a recap of why I'm here today. Last month, I came to this meeting and I asked the board to reconsider a decision the township made to abandon code and ordinance violations against my neighbor. The neighbor's fence is in violation of 3 township code and ordinances. Most concerning is the large gap at the bottom to extend the height of the fence. In doing so, my neighbor then backfilled with this gap with dirt, rocks, and asphalt. This debris is washing out into my property, and the washout will not stop until there's a barrier at the bottom of that fence as directed in the township letter to her dated September of 2022. So this seems like a simple fix. But why would the township decide to walk back code enforcement for clear and recognized violations? So I asked myself, why is an ordinance if no one's going to enforce it? The Michigan Municipal League states an ordinance must advance a public purpose and not the interest of a private person or an arbitrary class of persons. An ordinance that grants special privileges to a single person or an entity exceeds the scope of the governing body's powers of authority. The act of Highland withdrawing enforcement meets this test, exceeding their scope of power, and it shows favoritism. We have a township employee who works for the fire department, a township supervisor who visits her property 2 days after code enforcement threatens legal action. The supervisor does not contact me or visit my property to see firsthand. 24 hours later, I receive an email from code enforcement that they reversed their decision and the township will not pursue enforcement. So how can the residents have confidence in this township, in this board, or our fire department when it's been demonstrated that our public officials will grant special privileges to protect their colleagues? The township does not need to stay with this improper course of action because they don't want to give the perception of being wrong. Just go back and review the facts. They're in the emails from 2022 through current. They're in the notices the township sent to the neighbor. They're in a signed notarized affidavit that you have there. Please tell my neighbor to correct the violations or send Highland Township out to her property to fix it for her. You would demand the same if this was your property. Thank you.
Right. Excuse me. Thank you. And generally, we don't give comments in return on public comments, but I do want to tell you that we will correct this. Because it is incorrect the way this thing has been handled. You've done a more than ample job of bringing to light the shortcomings that we probably let slide through. This will get corrected. All right, thank you. Appreciate your coming in and being persistent. It's the wrong way to put it, but I mean, you have totally adequate points and can't be refuted. So I appreciate your coming in. Any other public comments?
I'd say one more thing. I'd like to say one thing. It's nice. We've got, I've got students of mine are here. You guys are, I'm assuming are Milford High School students, Mr. McGrath. You're all my students too. I can't see that far. Mr. McGrath, maybe he's not doing this, but we used to do this all the time. And then when COVID hit, we quit doing it. So it's nice to be able to get the students back and be able to see what's going on. And I'm glad they're not the only ones here tonight, because that's used to happen in the past sometimes too. Only the kids would come in. So, but it's nice to have them back.
So we need to get more students here, because what happens is the more people, the less echo in the room. So it helps everybody out by having more people here. And we do appreciate having students back in the room, because I think this is something that a lot of people miss and misunderstand is what happens at a township board meeting or at planning commission or zoning commission meetings. So thank you for following the guidelines of your teacher to get extra points or however it works, and showing up to be a participant. All right. Regardless, thanks for following through. I guess you could just say that, you know, and get no points or whatever. So thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. All right. Any other public comment? If not, we'll move on. Okay, the next item is public hearing for a special assessment district for Peninsula Lake weed control. So what I need to do is at 6:44, opening up the public hearing portion. That's where anybody that has anything to say about the weed control issue, please step forward.
Yes, I do. I'm here for my significant other who owns the property. And she's been there for 13 years. I've been there for 8 with her. We've been to this meeting before for this the weed control, and it's doing nothing. 80% of it's weeds. It's all muck. And we're on fixed incomes, and to pay $359 every year for something that ain't working, I don't understand. And the association, she bought the house. There was never an association agreement. She never signed no association papers. So how can we belong to association if we've never agreed to be in one? I mean, how can they vote us in just because of this weed control? And then you guys approved it, and now we have to pay the $359 a year on our taxes, because you guys just included it on our taxes. Well, I shouldn't have to pay for them to spray on my water that's out there then. So I don't see how they can enforce me to keep paying it on my taxes. Because there is no association. There isn't, we don't pay association dues. We don't, I mean, there was nothing in her contract when she bought the place. So I don't see how we belong to an association. And that is 117 Emily Lane. I just don't see how that's right to make us pay for something. That lake should naturally do what it's naturally gonna do. If it's gonna be a swamp, it's gonna be a swamp, because that's pretty much what it is. When you got birds standing in the middle of the lake, I don't know what kind they are, the ones with the long legs, and their legs are still sticking out. They're standing in mud. And it's in the middle of the lake. And nobody uses it. Because we're out a lot in our yard, especially through the summer. And no, I haven't seen one boat on that lake this year. So I don't know how you can call it a lake and make me pay, or my significant other pay that on her taxes, and it's mandatory.
Well, it's based on a law that if you get more than 51% of the property owners on that lake, then an SAD or a special assessment district can be established. And those property owners on the lake are required to pay that amount.
All right, but how about-
I can't give you any other answers on that right now because I don't have an answer for you on whether there's a.
Maybe you guys should check and see, because it's not working. It's got just as many weeds as it did 8 years ago when I first came around. It's got just as many weeds in it now, and they've been spraying it for 8 years. So how is that working?
If I'm,
5 years
Like a
ago, it
lecture.
doesn't matter, it's not working.
your property is split by Milford Road, right?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, let's see if we can find some additional information. I can't give you. the
yeah.
answer
Well,
to
like I
that.
said, maybe somebody should go out and look at it.
Well,
And if you
I-
know by our property, you should probably look at our guardrail. I don't know if you guys should supposed to be cleaning them up or not, but there's spots that you can't even see the guardrail because the weeds are so
Yeah,
high.
that's Oakland County. That's
Okay, well, that's my bad then. I apologize.
no problem.
All right,
So
but
let me-
I don't have much more to say besides, I just don't see how that's fair that we get voted in because we're on it and it's doing nothing.
All right,
It's doing nothing.
I'm not gonna get involved in
Yeah,
that.
all right, well,
I understand your
I mean,
point.
if
I know
somebody
this
could
is,
address it and maybe look at it and see, because it's, like I said,
Right.
it's a waste of my money.
I know you contested it the last time,
Yes,
which was what, 5 years ago or
yep,
something?
5 years ago, yep, because the new one's
So,
just come up, yep.
Let's see. what
And
we
now
can
we
find
have
out.
to pay for another 5 years at $359 a year.
Okay,
Sir, what was your address?
117 Emily Lane. And that's with 2 E's on the end.
And the last name of the owner?
Victoria Morris.
All right, thank you.
all right, we'll check that out.
All right, well, thank you.
Right, yep.
Good afternoon. Maurice Stavella, 182 Emily Lane. So we're fairly new to the community. We've got the house at the top of the driveway. And we also have the lake access. And I have to concur with the previous statement that unfortunately it's not much of a lake. We actually would like it to be a lake. We've got some kayaks that are actually sitting on our driveway, and we'd love to get out there and do some kayaking. In the 3 years that we've been there, unfortunately, we haven't been able to kayak on that lake for 3 years. It's my understanding that the weed control that's being done is, being done by a professional service. And the question may be, is that the right service? If we're going to control the weeds, is there a way to, do it better? Again, we would love it to be a lake. We'd love it to be a lake that's useful to us and the rest of the community. But I do have to concur that the current service just doesn't seem to be adequate. I do know that if you continue down Milford to where it dead ends, and then you take a left. And you head about maybe half a mile down to the left, there's another large quote unquote lake. Maybe a little smaller, but it's completely clear of debris and greenery. It's my understanding that that lake is a lot deeper. And so it's my understanding also that the real issue is the shallowness of a lake and how easy things grow versus something being very, very deep, thus nothing really growing. And it's also my understanding that for us to get to a similar situation, you would have to dredge the lake at probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So instead, I think what is happening right now is more of a Band-Aid, so it doesn't completely disappear. But again, I just wanted to make the comment that we're here, we'd like to use it, but unfortunately, the current services, they are what they are. Some of that may also have to do for state law in terms of how much chemicals can be used. They can't kill everything, but yet, it's a fine balance, I think. But anything that the board is able to do in terms of looking at the service and improving that situation, I would be all for it. So again, thank you very much.
Thanks for your comments.
A quick question, can I ask
Sure.
these gentlemen?
Yeah.
I just wondered if the people in your special assessment district have gotten together before this to have like a meeting of your association to discuss what you would like to do.
So Judy, that's a very great suggestion, because I believe it was that group that more than likely decided on the service agreement and then brought that to the board. So if the assessment group is not happy with the services, they probably should look at an alternative service. And then, work with that new company to perform a similar service if we're not happy. So you're right, the board here could probably only do so much.
Right.
So I'm going to take that back and see if I can find out. I know there's a woman who's been gathering those petitions and signatures for much longer than we've been here.
Andy Bauer.
Yeah, and she's very open to discussion, because again, I think her purpose is to make it usable. So if it's not working, I think that's a great idea. Maybe I'll look into working with her, seeing if we can all get together for donuts or something, and then having that discussion.
So part of forming a lake board, which Peninsula Lake is not, the township historically has just been charged with collecting your special assessment. If Peninsula Lake would like to form a lake board, they can go through Oakland County, and that lake board consists of someone from your special assessment district, Rick, and probably somebody else from the township board, right?
On lake boards.
County commissioner and somebody and an engineer from Water Resources that can help advise you. So it sounds like that might be something that you might want to consider.
Okay, so a lake board.
It's a lake board. And if you go on Oakland County's website, you can look up like lake boards, and it will take you to the manual, and it gives you process.
That's a great suggestion. So thanks for listening. And again, thanks for the feedback.
One comment, your concerns about 51% of the 51% voting for something. Maybe you ought to look at your bylaws, maybe change some of those voting requirements to make sure this gentleman really was originally part of the association to begin with. So look at the bylaws too, maybe fix those.
Yeah, take advantage of the whole situation and maybe just kind of reevaluate.
So
the whole thing.
I've got some data here. The data on that is that there's a total 22 parcels, 53.6 acres. 18 parcels form 39.9 acres. So the yes votes was 75%, which is significantly more than 51%. And the two, essentially one no vote, which I think was probably the ones that don't want it, and yours is assumed to be a no vote. I don't know if you.
Oh, no, we voted to do it because again, we'd like to have it be a lake.
So what happens is this comes in front of the township board, and it's pretty hard for us to override. Which is why we need to talk about alternatives or other ways to go about this. Because I know
my wife, back when she was young, that was nothing but a farm field, so I don't know how it can be a lake now. And then be considered a lake when it was a farm field at one time. And now if it's gonna be a swamp, let it be a swamp, let it be what it's gonna be. Don't try to change it.
Yeah.
There's animals that live on there. We're coming.
I think so. Time for public comment is expired. We have to set a time limit. So we appreciate your comments and we'll
Yeah.
make our next step here. So,
Thank you.
okay. We're going to close the public comment hearing session at 6:56. We had 2 comments. All right. So the next item is to address the proceedings for the Lake Board. Missing. Okay, so the next item is resolution 22-23 to proceed with the Peninsula Lake Special Assessment District for the control of weeds in Peninsula Lake and related services pursuant to 1954 BA 188 as amended. So we need a motion to approve that or disapprove or whatever. Motion to approve is what.
I'm gonna make a motion, but I want to make it clear that, is this for 5 years, Rick?
Yep.
So if we approved it for 5 years, and help me out here, Ann, at any time they can come back and change that or amend it, right? Right. Yeah. Okay. I just thought if they wanted to change and make it a lake board, it would give them the opportunity to do that. Yes. Okay. I would move to approve resolution 23-23 to proceed with the Peninsula Lake Special Assessment District for the control of weeds in Peninsula Lake and related services pursuant to Public Act of 1954 188 as amended.
Support, Hal?
Okay, moved and supported. Any further discussion at the board level? Microphone.
About the gentleman who said that, you know, he never really belonged to the association to begin with. Is that something he has to take up with his own legal counsel to determine if he is forced into that?
They don't have an association.
They don't have.
What it is it's a group of property owners that surround the lake that have chosen to confer with all the property owners to try and get them to agree by at least 51%. Now, it's not just 51% of the property owners because it's the size of the parcels have more voting control, so to speak. So the more parcel size you have, the larger parcel size they have, the more say, so to speak. So it's not an association.
So a gentleman who doesn't have enough property is on the outside.
Yeah.
And again, if it's a lake board, I believe that the lake board can choose to take that property out of the special assessment. Correct.
Yes, it can, but
As long as the lake board is established properly and acts under the Public Improvement Act.
Yep. Thank you.
So the 51% have the authority by this vote to force the other 49% to pay for something they may not want.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So the other irony about this is, I don't know if you probably don't have it right up there in your packet, but the 2 gentlemen that were here, their parcels are actually split by Milford Road, and they have a little fine thread of property that they really can't use. And I don't know if it's actually identified as separate Sidwell numbers. I don't believe it is, but let's see if I can. it's not, which is unusual to have the road divided like that. So it might be something that right now they're being assessed as lake frontage and they could save some money on their taxes if they abandon that property to the county or something like that. That would be an alternative. I mean, what kind of access do you need? You climb over the guardrail anyways and go onto county property and into the water. So it's not like you're trespassing, so to speak. No, the two yellow ones. So anyways, any other comments on it or questions?
I have a question. Why is the one parcel red?
That might be the one no vote.
That's what I was thinking. Because Milford Road does travel that way too. That's very little land area on.
It's unusable. And for general information, that lake has been, it's not a lake. That pond has been there for hundreds of years. It used to be the water source for filling the steam engines that stopped in Clyde. There was actually a water pump that went in right along Milford Road. I think some of I can't see the pilings anymore, but they used to have a pipe that went in, they'd pump it up to the water tower and feed the steam engines. So, yes.
So when I feel like I remember him commenting before, and we were gonna look into seeing if he could split his parcel so he did not have lake frontage. Did
I
anything
think,
come of that?
I don't think they wanted to.
They didn't want to give it up.
Right.
Uh.
So it's kind of one of those, you can't always get what you want.
Right, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. Well,
Are we ready to vote?
yes.
Could I ask a real quick question too?
Who?
Could I ask just a quick question? How much frontage do you have to actually have on a lake to be considered lake frontage property? In other words, if you just have a little tiny bit and most of your property is not on the lake, is that still lake frontage?
I don't know that there's a minimum. If your parcel goes to the water, if it's 10 feet wide, it's like. And
The Special Assessment Public Improvement Act requires that 50% of the total land. So the land that is on the lakefront includes the entire parcel, not just the frontage on the lake.
right. Not based on frontage, it's based on square.
Correct. Yes,
acres.
it's based on the properties that are affected, that are on the lake. That's where the special assessment district will be established, but the property includes the entire parcel. That's how all of it is calculated.
Which is interesting because there's two parcels that have significant, the two gentlemen that were here both have pretty good sized parcels. So, but it's still. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay, time to vote.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
I vote yes, but I still have some reservations about the entire. I vote yes, but I have some reservations about how it's being conducted.
Okay,
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
So that should be the end of the conversation, but we'll talk about it later. All right, next item is item B. So Tammy, you added this thing. You want to explain it for me, please?
Okay, so at the August meeting, the first August meeting, the regular one, we introduced this zoning text amendment to change the setbacks rules. It was kind of technical and very kind of minorish. It was approved by planning and sent to us, and we introduced it at the August meeting.
Right.
And then through a various, like, we forgot to put it on this agenda. But there are people waiting for this change so they can proceed with building a barn project, and they want to get it in this year. So unless Beth has any comments from planning, I think we discussed it last time.
Yeah, it was introduction only, so we couldn't vote on it. And this is the part 2. So
I make a motion to adopt the zoning amendment Z 029. An ordinance to amend the Charter Township of Highland zoning ordinance, chapter 25.
Support Lewis.
okay, moved and supported. Any discussion on that? All right, vote please.
All right, Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Hal votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
You can build your barn. Should be able to. Did you have any comments? You'd like to say anything? Would you like to say anything? I said, is there anything you'd like to comment on, or I'll give you that opportunity? Yep, what we just did is we just approved the amendments, so that it's been approved. So you can move ahead. And the one thing I wanted to tell you was, thank you for bringing that forward and pushing it. Yep. Should be immediately. Do we have to put an ad in the paper?
It has to be published in accordance with the.
Not
Township.
very long. It has to be published.
So
Yeah,
roughly 10 days.
10 days to 2 weeks.
When, Ken Harp, 3063 Brown Lane, Highland Township. When they changed that setback 10 years or so ago, whenever it was, I don't remember the exact date. I never did understand what was the reasoning for it. And I tried to go through some paperwork. I tried to get some old minutes, and that was, like a needle in a haystack, come to find out. So does anybody have any idea why it was changed from 50 feet to 100 feet in such a rural area? Anybody answer that question? Was there any logic covering this change?
I don't think you can hear with this.
I think it went from 10 acre minimum to 5 acre minimum.
Promise it's not on them. You have to speak into that.
They went from 10 acre minimum to 5 acre minimum, and they didn't change the setbacks. So they went from 10 acre minimum to 5 acre minimum, but they didn't change the setbacks. So it was like you originally were zoned for a 10 acre parcel, but now they said you could split your property to 5 acres, but they didn't change the setback. I don't think it was ever increased. I don't think it was ever increased.
Yeah, it was, because when he built his barn. Right. Well, I think the best answer to that is, apparently there was a problem and we corrected it. So it took 10 years, but and somebody to say something about it. I agree with you. I don't understand it, but
It just doesn't make any sense to me. You want everything together like that. I understand. Then no resources on paper. That was when I started this in January.
I can't answer that. That was something that was started before I started here, so. Well, you're not gonna get an argument out of me. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you. So, well, we're actually looking at ordinances all the way through to see what we can do to make modifications or corrections that make more sense. So, all right. Yep.
I guess my question is because nowhere in the world, my grandfather did not look at it. But I'm not gonna have to go to the world. If they're all from certain years. And so maybe my goal, the government city behind the church.
Right. Well, I think that the board you have in front of you realizes that there was an issue with that, and that's the reason we brought it forward. And so consequently, right, and we probably, if it might have been one of those things that could have just stayed at 100 feet and we did nothing, but we made the decision that based on, conversation with our planning department and our zoning department, and does this seem right? And, why does it not make sense? And your conversation. So I want to thank you very much for bringing it forward and sticking with it. Unfortunately, I can't go back and reel back any costs or anything, but I don't know. We can't answer that. Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't answer that for you, but
Now, if you can correct it. Is there any consideration? Costs. But building.
I believe, but I'll consult with an attorney, but I believe I do have the authority to waive fees. But I'd have to talk with the building official on that. So. Okay, well, anybody got a chicken bone here? I'll bring that up with our department. We'll see what we can do. No, I agree with you. We have to be careful not to set quota precedents that everybody comes in and requests for refunds, but let's see what we can do. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Yes, sir. All right.
Since this is a zoning ordinance, the township has 15 days to publish from today, and then it will take effect. The ordinance will take effect 8 days after that.
All right. Well, I would not hesitate moving forward with the process. That way you can start out running. Well, make the process roll, and then we'll do our due diligence on that part, was the term you used, and don't sit back and wait and then add another 10 days to 2 weeks if you want to get rolling on it. So. Okay. All right. Thank you. Can't blame you. All right. So next item, we're moving to new business. This is award a bid for the cemetery fencing. And see if I can get there. Look. So we put out for competitive bids, and we received four contractors who followed the process correctly, received four bids. Did we get four or three? I think four. It was four. Yeah, four bids back, and we opened the bids on August 31st. We had a meeting with the supposed contractors at the cemetery, which was mandatory, to talk about the requirements. We received the bids. Bids are open on the 31st of August at 4 p.m. And the lowest bidder was Milford Fence at $35,175. And I'll make a motion. I'd like to recommend Milford Fence to complete the work at Highland Cemetery located at 561 North Milford Road, Highland, Michigan.
Support. Oh, Sergeant.
Okay, moved and supported. Any questions? All right, a vote, please.
Mr. Salvia,
Sylvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Hall votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel,
Yes.
motion carries, and I would like to thank the support of the supervisor's office to get this completed and make it clear that the fence that's being replaced is the south side of the cemetery only.
It backs up to the commercial condos on M59 and the old. There, you know what I'm talking about, where Milford Music is, and now this will be for Jim from Milford Fence. This will be for his knowledge. I'm still trying to get one of the owners of the building to agree to cut down all the trees that are the problem. Yep. So I'm waiting on a meeting for all of them to come in. They seem to have a misconception of who owns what, or if anybody owns it. I think it's a condo. It is a site condo, so the property is an association type thing. So they'll have to work their bugs out between them. And I don't know that we've received answer from Italy America yet. We're trying to get the corner there to be, so you can have a place to work from. No, well, at the southeast end.
Work on their side. Because some of the plots are right there in the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We still have to get permission from that corner, what used to be the bank. Right. What?
Trees up.
Yeah.
Is it possible I could probably start that first of next week?
I gotta get in touch with it. Let me get in touch with the tree guys to get him cranking. And yeah, if you want to get started, fine.
All the budget stuff, is that gonna be cleared or?
Well, that's what we gotta get.
That's where the point in time.
Yeah, I've got to get Mike to get in there from the tree service. If you want to get in there, go for it. Yep, we'll take care of that. All right. Okay, so you'll have it done next Monday? Could be, huh? It goes on. So, I'm gonna be out of town, so yeah.
Okay, the payment just got less, then he'll help you.
All right, well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate your bidding, and we'll. All right, sounds good. You're welcome. Okay, next item is in order for us to pay Jim, we need to do a budget amendment. And so I need a motion to approve.
I would move to approve the budget amendment as presented.
Support. Okay, moved and supported. A vote, please.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Okay, next item. Tammy, I'm gonna let you take that. It relates to elections. I don't know if she's involved in elections or not, but
We have big changes coming. And so I'm asking for consideration on two issues. The first one is concerning election inspector pay. I don't know the rates that Oakland County early voting will be paying yet, but I want to match their rates so that we're not being outbid for workers. And so if you would kindly approve us to do that. And secondly, to begin paying workers through payroll, which will bring us into IRS compliance and also eliminate an issue of workers getting a 1099 for over $600 and being hit for the double whammy on the payroll taxes. So we could do this in two motions, I think, if somebody wants to start the first one or ask questions either.
I would,
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion if you,
Go ahead.
unless you. I'll make the motion on the first item, to approve an increasing amount that we pay for election day inspectors to match what Oakland County will be paying the early voting workers proportionately.
Support.
Any questions on that?
Tammy, just a quick question. Is it appropriate for someone to vote on this, an increase in pay for election workers if you have been an election worker or are planning on being one for the next election?
I would say so. We have several election workers
Okay.
together on the board, and
Okay.
if you all abstain, we're in trouble. So
Right,
I think you just have to.
okay,
I don't think there's any conflict.
Okay.
I mean, it's just,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So if we're ready to vote,
Vote please.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries that. And I would mention, if any of you, I beat you to it. If any of you would like to work elections, we're gonna have 3 elections next year. It's great for students who, and it gives you something to put on your resume and in your college application. And you get paid.
And all the bazooka bubble gum you can chew.
No. Bagel, so. Okay, so the second. Yeah. Second issue is to approve the clerk to hire inspectors onto the payroll going forward. And then also I would have the authority to remove them from the payroll system if they become inactive.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make that motion for you.
Okay,
I make the motion to approve the clerk to select inspectors to be placed on payroll for election work going forward and giving authority to remove inactive workers from the system as needed.
Support Lewis.
I want to add something to that.
Oh.
Giving the clerk authority.
okay. We got it.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Any questions? Vote please.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Screaming through these things. Next item, the clerk will also be taking this.
All right, we want to move into the next century
Already?
of document management systems. And this is a way for us to dip our toe into the pool, so to speak. and see how we like it, see if we're happy with the provider, and potentially to expand it down the road for other departments. It'll be really helpful for us to be able to do this. There's a lot of applications for this that we could really delve into going forward, where like eventually our building department, people will be able to fill out permits online, and the system can feed the data directly into whatever program we're using, BSNA. And currently people are filling stuff out, and then our staff has to type it into BSNA, which is ridiculous. So I really hope you'll consider this. I do want to mention that we were subsequently provided agreement documents that I would like for the board to give approval for the supervisor to sign upon after attorney review and approval.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So how is this broken down? So it's $5,788 per year for 3 years,
Right.
and then 4,800,
The one time is,
the 1,200 or 1,120.
I'm not sure what page you're on, but
Just the quote. I don't know software.
yeah.
How much is it going to cost? There was no
So,
place. I
Yeah,
could
they
tell.
have different options. So we're going to start with the 4 users system,
So it's solution pricing cloud for named users.
right? And then
So-
eventually we can expand it so that more staff can. He provided both levels of user volume to make it so we can understand the.
Okay, so
eventual
under
cost.
solution pricing, cloud for named users.
Yes.
There's like
the
4
12
choices.
The 12 months. Over on the left, it says 12 months.
Uh-huh.
That's the annual rate. Where it says 3 days, that's the implementation. That's the one-time cost.
Training.
Okay,
And then for years 2 and 3, it's just the 12 months rate. Not the one-time cost is only in the first year.
so 9,468 for the first year.
Right.
And then 4,668 for each additional year,
Years 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Yes.
Do they offer staff that comes to us?
The 3-day training, yes, they'll be working directly with our staff to get them up to speed.
So they won't actually be scanning any of our documents. It would
No.
all be,
It's just
the 4 users are staff.
It's they're training, they're working hands-on with our staff. Once it's set, they do set up and then they do the training.
And initially, this is for absentee ballot application.
Right,
And minutes.
That's where we're starting.
And that makes it searchable? Is that why? Because we have to keep all of those things anyways. We can, even if we go digital, we can't get rid of our paper copies until the destroy date.
Well, we have to keep it somehow, some way.
Mhm.
So now we're gonna have this permanent ballot application option for voters.
Mhm.
And we're gonna have to retain those ballot applications and potentially pass them along to wherever the clerk, wherever these voters move to. Whenever, people are moving all the time, and their ballot application, their permanent ballot status follows them to their new location. So we need to be able to store them, sort them out, retrieve what we need, send it on to other people. If we have it stored digitally, we don't have to keep the paper.
Oh, you don't?
No, we just have to have it saved.
So all the records though, we do have to keep.
So some things we do, some things we don't, but.
The
these
key
ballot
is
applications-
the key is
Back-
being able to
back up the
search
system.
the documents. You
We have
can't,
the backup.
you can't search this stuff on our table. It's got to be digital. And it was created digitally, so yes, we can go search it, but we need to get stuff in the past. There's board meetings, there's all kinds of stuff that when you go to, all we have to do, like I ask a question, what happened, 2 years ago on this project? And then the clerk has to go through and look through all the minutes to find that information. And if it's digitized, you could just do a search, like you would for Google. And
So
pull up the
also,
information.
would the desk scanner be ours or only for the 3 years?
No, we'll buy that. That'll be owned by us.
Just $1,100 to purchase it?
Yeah.
Amy, I just have a quick question too on this. I noticed that there's a big difference in the pricing based on the number of, or the gigabytes of storage that you get. So not knowing exactly what storage you will need, what happens if you, select a plan and then you go way over the amount of storage allowed? Is there a certain flat rate or?
Yeah, it's scalable. So it's hard for us to predict how many applications we're gonna get or so forth, but as you store more and more, the rate, you'll pay a little bit more, but it's proportionate. There's not like a huge balloon payment if you go over or anything like that. It's just scalable. For this year. Oh, for the 3-year contract.
Is there, we're looking at either 4 named or 15 named, one of the other.
We're gonna start with the 4.
Okay, so that's all we're concerned about tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it'll be a great tool for us. It's just this, I had question.
Do the not to exceed.
I would do the not to exceed 20,000. Because we don't know,
We're at 18,000.
800.
Okay, then let's just do a not to exceed.
We're say not to exceed 20,000.
Right. Okay, who wants to, who wants to craft that motion? You want it?
Not me.
Okay, so, I guess I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to, on approval of the contract with our attorneys, with Applied Innovation to, select option number 1, which is solution pricing cloud for named users. And at the listed fees, and to select we're looking at scanner number 1.
Yeah.
Optional scanner pricing. So we're looking at scanner number 1. Canon DRM260 scanner, and at a price not to exceed $20,000. And that's a
3 years.
3-year agreement.
Cooper support.
Any
Okay.
questions?
Moved and support. Any questions on that?
Do I have any questions?
Yeah.
I come from a computer background. We're way overdue for this.
No doubt. All right, so vote please.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Sylvia, yes?
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Charles votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
The bewitching hour.
Night.
I hate to let him go because that's the end of our crowd, but that's the way it goes. I don't have to stay for an hour.
Time. They went way past, their Apple Watch went over and said, time to stand up and leave. Okay, next item. Make a motion there.
I make a motion to hire Karen Jensen as a part-time seasonal employee. Not more than 29 hours a week for $23 per hour, starting September 12th.
Cooper support.
I'm gonna have to pass out suckers.
All right. Okay, vote.
So we need seasonal part-time help. So right now we have Jill Matthews from the library and Laura Clee, who's been with us for many years, and they'll fill in different departments.
So just to have her on as an employee.
Okay,
You vote.
vote please.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Hal votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Judy, are you next?
Okay there, Nick, put that microphone in front of your face, nice and close so we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
A little closer.
All right. So you want to start with the first one on there, number, is it still F for you guys or did you change it?
Bring that thing right up to your mouth and speak. Somebody stole it.
All right, first topic for the fire department was purchasing a fire hose. We're going through our annual testing this year. And it came up basically as fire hose, it's the rubber insides of it, it starts breaking down. The older it gets, it can get, as with everything in the fire service, pretty costly. So I wanted to let you guys know we're already projecting probably at least right around $10,000 minimum to replace the hose that we're gonna have to replace this year. So I wanted to let you guys know about that and also kind of get authorization to continue using our normal supplier for it in a bulk purchase instead of just a little bit here at a time. You know, normally we'll order from them all the time, you know, 100 feet there or 500 feet here, but like, you know, to get authorization to be able to do a bulk order when the time comes to replace that hose. That way not have to look for anything special or anything like that. Just continue using our normal vendor we use for all of a lot of different fire equipment all the time. That's the first one on there for the fire hose number F on mine. I'm not sure if you guys changed it for yours.
Okay, so your first request is to have us approve a $15,000 expenditure,
Up to, yeah.
up to $15,000.
At the max, yeah, not over that. I'll come back if it's any more than that.
I think we're gonna, on the vendor thing, if I'm correct, the item J should address that. The vendor thing. So that's one of the things we're hoping to make corrections on. We have engineers that
Right,
we've
yeah.
vetted. We have IT people that we've vetted, yet every time you want to do some IT stuff, you got to go get quotes and everything, and
Yeah,
it doesn't
because
make
the cost
sense.
of everything nowadays is rising higher and higher. Yep.
So we're looking at that type of thing where you vet individual suppliers who are consistent, who you know their pricing, you know, that doesn't mean you don't back check them, but you hope to build a trust thing with that. So that's kind of where we're going to be on that. So I think I don't have a problem with making a motion to approve the fire hose with your normal vendor at this point.
Okay. Excellent.
With that understanding, but I think we're going to be able to address that. So
yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve up to $15,000 a new fire hose from your normal vendor, and the vendor's name is,
That was,
I may have that here,
yeah,
McQueen.
McQueen.
Yep.
Okay. They'll have locked up.
Support, Salvia.
Right.
Question.
Yep.
They're not gonna hose us on this deal, are they?
We're gonna take your microphone away.
Listen, you older.
Okay, so do we want to vote on that?
Do we need to waive the purchasing policy on this one too?
We probably should. So let's vote to, and I'll put in there,
Just
and
add
to
it.
waive the purchasing policy to use the McQueen current vendor McQueen equipment.
Okay.
I support it, yeah.
Okay.
So let's vote.
We'll vote.
All right. Mr. Salvia,
Sylvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Hal votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
this next item is this is the for the compressor that they use to fill up what some people would call scuba tanks or SCCBA tanks. And the old compressor, which is how many years old?
Our 22-year-old compressor, we got our lifespan out of it. It just happens to be,
That was probably almost out of breath, that one.
it was very out of breath.
So anyways, I think the issue here is asking us to approve up to 41,000, but
I've actually got it pinpointed down to the one we'd like now. When I first submitted this, I didn't know how much or which one really to go with at the time. To be honest, I've never ordered one myself. So we made some phone calls around. Captain Korponic made calls to Detroit, even to who goes through, a lot more compressors and things like that than we do, to pinpoint what compressor to do. So I have a recommendation for what compressor, the actual quote sitting right here for you guys. It's not and 41,000 was the top quote I got. So that's why I put that one in there. This one is not that high. It's the quote from Breathing Air Systems, which I put in there.
is it one that you have, that we have?
Yep, I sent it in the packet, or when I sent all the emails to you. It's the quote from Breathing Air Systems. It'll be for 32,943.04.
Okay, so all right, so I can make a motion on that if you. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of SCBA compressor system from Breathing Air Systems for the amount of $32,944.
Support, Lewis.
4 cents. Okay, moved and supported. Any questions? That
Oh,
made it
definitely,
easier.
yeah,
All right. Vote. What?
I think this falls under emergency purchasing.
Because it's a failure. So,
I would put under, if there is an emergency policy or form, I would put under that, we need to get it replaced as quick as possible.
well, we can add into it just like I did the last one, and the board approve waiving the purchasing policy.
We could take a deep breath and then vote on this.
Okay, who supported it? Beth, is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay, now we can vote.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hal votes yes.
Cooper, yes.
Frederick, yes.
Sylvia, yes.
Hamel, yes. Okay. This next one's.
Next
you.
one on the list is I put in for
Get your mouth into that microphone.
H and I kind of go together. Amendment of the budget, and then also H was to hire 3 more firefighters. Something we're kind of looking at doing for next year. Basically the goal for I'm looking at doing is trying to get up to NFPA standards for the number of personnel on shift. We meet that goal right now, but not when we're splitting them for 2 different ambulances, which what we're having to do over 800 times a year right now. Our call volume for EMS calls is overlapping. We were at 800, I think 70 times at least last year that our call volumes overlapped each other. So it's very hard to have the crews be in one vehicle and then split themselves in half, obviously. So I'm looking at trying to increase, slowly start increasing our staffing as we can, get up to a higher staffing level. With that would come, the first step would be hiring 3 more. And then to relieve them of some of the overtime and things like that, we'd like to do that, kind of just start the hiring process right away for hopefully get them installed in October, between the beginning, the middle of October, to help relieve some of the overtime and things that they're incurring right now. There's a lot of things going on with paid on call, Though we have the 2 positions for paid on call staff, but as summer goes and they get busy, sometimes it gets harder to fill those and things like that. And having that 4th full-time spot will help alleviate some of the overtime and strain on the others that we're incurring right now.
Okay, so the first item is you need an approval to hire 3 employees.
Hire 3 more full-time employees, yes.
Say that again?
Yes, to hire 3 more full-time employees.
Okay. Full-time.
Full-time.
All right. So I'll make a motion to approve the fire chief to start the process to hire 3 full-time firefighters. That's pretty it.
That's it.
Anybody want to support that?
Cooper support.
Okay, moved and supported. Any discussion on that?
We have candidates lined up.
We have some internal candidates. Last time we did our agility test for the new probationaries that came in. I actually I told them if they want to start doing like a yearly test, to actually already have them done with the test in case we ever do hirings the next year, that they can get the agility test done with already. So we already have a list of people that have done the agility test already that have passed it. So I know all of them will already apply. We're kind of moving forward with getting feelers out there and things like that. There's quite a
Great, chief. Thank you.
EMT wise, there's quite a few lists. The hard part is getting paramedics. I'm hoping to get at least one paramedic to apply from the outside because we don't have any internal right now, but we have quite a few great internal candidates that are EMTs and firefighters right now, and then we'll get them trained up to the medic level.
Chief, so what's the fighter, I don't want to call it the market, but during COVID, everybody lost a lot of firefighters, and it was very difficult to replace them. Do you see any improvement in that? So when you go out and look for external candidates, is there
right now there's no, for firefighter medic wise, we're unfortunately every fire department's actually stealing from each other, to put it easily. Everybody's jumping and going where this contract's a little bit better here, money's a little bit better here, retirement's better here. I actually like the work schedule better here because it's been proven that it's not all about the money, but sometimes it's about the work schedule, the run volume. Some of these guys are getting older and they don't want to run 15 calls a day. So with not having like the pensions like we used to have, they can easily just move with their 401k to another department. And then they're like, oh, I can come over here to a smaller department, slow it down a little bit for me. And a lot of departments are offering a lot of sign-on bonuses, retirement, a lot of different things now to get people. The competition is very real, and
We're still talking.
with a lot of the changes they've done in EMS to requirements to become a paramedic, it's making it a lot more difficult. There's state picketing right now with the IFF, trying to force them to come up with new laws, a new EMS test that's a state test again, just to try to start producing more paramedics again, because we need them so bad. But it's not just here, it's across the whole United States, it's across the whole world, from volunteers all the way up to doctors at the doctor level. We need medical staff so bad across the whole world. So don't think it's just a secluded thing for Michigan. It's everywhere. It's not just us, we feel it too. And we're just all of us are doing what we can, and we sell what is Highland Township, and that's what's helping us keep the members we have now. And we're always trying to improve it and make it better. So that way we can bring people in and people will want to come in, whether we're top paying or lowest paying, doesn't matter, as long as we have the right things to provide them besides the pay and the retirement. There's other perks and benefits and reasons people will come. So we just have to try to get those reasons out there to people to show them why they want to come here.
All right.
Question. So are you bringing the candidates back to us? Are you hiring them? Do you want approval to hire them and put them on payroll immediately?
I'd like approval to put them immediately. I have no problem if you would like me to come to the in-houses, that whatever you'd like to do.
So it's just how we word our motion.
Yep. Whatever process you want. I do the normal hire, just like we did the last hiring. I'll bring in 3 outside professionals from other fire departments to do a hiring panel, do scoring, do the agility test, and then
I would say from the perspective of my motion, I would say that the inference is that you have the approval to go at higher based on your selection process.
Excellent. Thank you.
And what would be your earliest beginning date for the new people?
I can't imagine it. I would love to hit the October 1st, but I doubt it. So it'll probably be the next pay period after that if I'm lucky. If I can get them through all the checks.
Let's be conservative and say as early as October 1st.
It'd be as early as October 1st at the
Okay.
earliest. I don't.
As early as October 1st.
So we can add that to your motion.
Yep, and
Yeah.
Beth, you'll support that?
Yes, I support.
Okay, Beth supports the change. Man, we are having a hard time with the motions tonight. I don't know why that is. It's a pretty simple stuff here. All right, so
We're just always finding ways to make it better, Rick.
well, there you go.
Quick question. If you hire people that are not fully certified, they are required to complete that. And how long?
Yeah, they will have the same conditions as the two EMTs we hired before. They'll have to acquire their EMT or their paramedic license in a time period.
And which is how long?
The one they did, I think Chapman did before was 2 years,
Okay,
to bring that back up.
Okay. But the same standards. as
Yeah, same
before.
type of standards. I'll have to judge the contract based off when exactly the hiring is. But I don't want to put them into a class. I don't want to hire them, tell them 2 years when it's going to be a year before they can actually get into a class. So that would kind of set them up for failure. And then I'd have to let them go. And I'd hate to have to do that. So it might have to be a year or a 2.5 year. We'll base it off when we can get them hired in. And we'll write that into the hiring agreement.
Okay, so we need a vote.
Vote,
Right.
please.
Okay, Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Okay.
And the last thing for me was the fire department budget amendment, which I amended the budget to look more accurate of what we're going to look like toward the end of the year. Between having me take over from Ken Chapman, the chief's wages won't actually be what they were projected to be, with a little bit of changes there, and then the hiring 3 and all that's on there.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendments for the fire department as presented.
Cooper, support.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote please.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, boy.
Chief, why are you taking a pay cut?
I'm actually, it's not really a pay cut. You remember the first 2 months and a little bit, I was at a lower pay.
Okay,
So I was only at captain wages. So then the change from going from captain to chief wages is that kind of variable.
okay, thank you.
I have a question too. Before, was paramedic training paid for by the township? And I see that you're taking it out of your budget.
Okay, so that one, we do what's called kind of like a scholarship, where we provide it up to the $4,995 per 2 scholarships a year. That we award, the members have to apply for, and they get awarded based off their seniority and writing an essay and stuff like that. This year, only one person applied for it, and then he couldn't start the class this year. So I have that in my budget for next year to do 3 of them. So he'll get his still next year, plus offer it up for 2. I have it written in the budget to increase it to 3 for next year, just for that reason. And then the other one, since only one person applied this year, I allocated those funds actually ended up back in the over to training to purchase some mannequin dummies and things like that to help with the training.
And just to clarify, the December bill this year will have your increase in millage for next year's budget, right?
Yeah, the new December
Millage
will
is
start.
going on.
Yeah,
Okay.
going into effect next year's millage. Yep,
Perfect. Thank you.
no problem.
All right, so we've got a motion and a support
Mhm.
and a vote, please.
Mrs.
But-
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
And one more thing I'd like to add in with fire department, if I could real quick. Yesterday, we had a special event for, well, we had a kind of a mandatory training and it worked out great because we had a special event for a family that was involved in a traumatic event. They wanted it low key, nothing on the radar. But I want to give a special thanks out to Hungry Howie's and Norman's Ice Cream because they donated enough for 50 people for ice cream and pizza for everybody. And I was going to cover it all out of our budget. And all I did is I called them up, told them we're having an event for a family, and they said, here you go. And so I'd really like to say a big thank you to them for what they did.
We'll second that.
That's all I've got. Thank you, guys.
Support that. All right. Thank you, Nick. Okay, next item is Highland Township purchasing policies. I'm gonna, hopefully you all took a few minutes to look at this. So I'm just gonna read it through because it'll be easier for me to not prolong this too much. Okay, I'm proposing amendments to the purchasing policy to address a few issues that continue to hinder operations. First, given the effects of inflation, the purchasing power of the limits imposed on our policies has been impacted. I believe we have fostered a culture of smart shopping where staff and officials carefully consider alternatives, give due consideration to local businesses, as well as scour internet sources for the best value. I think a meeting of the minds of the in-house officials about purchases that have already been included in the budget should be adequate to protect township interests and transparency, at least for the mid-level purchases between $5,000 and $15,000. We also want to respect our vendors' time and energies. It costs money to respond to requests for proposals. And each time someone is asked to bid a project, they are taking a risk that their time won't yield a return. A busy vendor won't even be attracted to a request to bid for a smaller purchase. By raising the limit before we move to sealed bids, we will limit the effort both to our staff and to our vendors. In fact, although I have proposed a $15,000 limit before moving to sealed bids, I believe it'd be appropriate to raise it to $25,000. Finally, I think it's time to acknowledge that the decision-making process for software, computer telecommunications, and security equipment has to take in many complex factors, and going with the low price option is rarely the right decision. I proposed a process where each project will be reviewed by a leadership team and a decision will be made to whether or how to proceed. The board's input will come when the budget is established, not when the time comes to complete the purchase. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'd ask the board to approve the amended policies and perhaps at this point to agree to the dollar limit at which sealed bids would be required. So there's probably opportunity for multiple things here. So I think before we get too far into this, changes bid requirements. The change would be quotes may be verbal, written, or electronic, and may be derived from catalogs or websites. And this replaces 3 written quotes. These written quotes may be received from web-based suppliers, contractors, or manufacturers. So what I'll read as we go forward are the changes. So the next item, this is in the current purchasing policy, and these are draft amendments. So the purchasing agent authorized to purchase budgeted goods and services up to $5,000 are available within the budget. The purchasing agent may purchase budgeted goods and services up to $15,000 with the concurrence of the township supervisor, township clerk, and township treasurer. If these officials do not concur with the purchase, board approval is required. So that's the requested changes that
Except for you're asking for 25,000, correct?
right.
So, I mean, we can see the changes. I think we just need to discuss the amount. Is it 15 or 25?
Okay, well, they'll have to address that in the final.
And I mean, I think 25 is fine for sealed bids. And then do we also have to approve the new technology and internet connected devices purchasing policy, or is that
That's
just part of it now?
right. I think that's the part that we're actually adding to it. So it's at this point is not necessarily addressing Nick's issue. But it may be something, we're
With the
talking about,
compressor?
yeah,
Oh, with the purchases.
purchases in a vendor, so I think what we'll do is this one is more for internet technology and that, because it's an easy one to address in terms of we've got an IT company that we work with, and when you start throwing different products at them because you're asking for quotes on things that,
Well, we have a 15 that says professional services from firms that have been previously vetted and approved by the board.
right, so you have to vet those firms.
Right.
And you can do that individually. What this does is this allows for the internet technology thing. So let's go back and make sure that we've got, make sure I'm heading in the right direction here. Okay, some of the changes this is in the purchasing policy itself, which is different than the internet component of it. So we discussed the
So
purchase. Pardon me?
The technology part, it does not require the 3 in-house officials to sign off, or does?
I don't think it does. It's a leadership team consisting of the purchasing agent, network administrator, and other staff as may be designated by the purchasing agent. So I could ask the in-house officials. So that the document you're looking at, the technology and internet connected devices, is a separate component of the purchasing policy. This would be an addition. So let's finish going through this thing. So the board approval is required for purchasing totals over 15,000. Except for emergency purchases. Notification of emergency purchases, this is already in there. So it raises it from 5,000 to 15,000. Sealed competitive bids are required for purchases of, this was 10,000. We proposed 15,000, but this is where the 25,000 comes in. So we would modify that to 25,000.
So between 15 and 25, then it would still come to the board for approval?
Yes, that's where sealed
But
bids come
not
into play.
sealed bids.
Right, between 15 and 25, you could do all the other research, but you still have to bring it.
So the only thing that's going to 25 is the sealed bids.
Bids, right?
So we still have our 3 levels.
Yes,
3 written, 3 quotes for 5,000, between 5,000 and 15.
That would be approved in-house. Between 5 and 15 would be in-house only.
If it's in the budget.
Right. And
Right.
then 15 to 25 would be brought to the board, but not require sealed bids.
Correct.
And then over 25 would be sealed bids.
And brought to the
brought
board.
to the board. I understand what you're saying.
right.
Okay, I make a motion to,
Let's get to the next part, receiving goods. Yeah.
I mean,
So this is additional purchases after non-competitive quotes or competitive bids. The purchasing agent may make additional purchases of supplies, materials, equipment, or services from a successful vendor, provided the additional purchases are at or near the same cost or less per quantity as originally quoted or bid by the vendor, and the purchasing occurs no more than 12 months after the date of the original purchase, or the purchasing agent is reasonably certain that the same supplies, materials, equipment, or services are not available or at a lesser cost from another source. Yeah, that sounds like Joe Ellen. Yeah, right.
For technology purchases.
No, that's one of the addition number 6, addition.
They make additional purchases. I don't think the fire department was part of this conversation. I'm just trying to find a way. Right. So I would say that you would come to the supervisor.
It's the hose vendor. So now for the next 12 months, he doesn't have to come to us even if he spends over a certain amount,
Up to
as long as it's budgeted.
for a year.
12
Right.
months. Right.
So you're talking about
Amy's
item
getting this.
6,
What's that?
and the wording at the end of item 6 occurs no more than 12.
Okay, so then here's where the technology comes in. So there's this list of exceptions or exemptions. 15 professional services from firms that have been previously vetted and approved by the board. That's, I don't know why it turned red. Oh, because we changed numbers, 15 and then 16. So number 16 is technology purchases are covered by a separate purchasing policy, which is the one attached. So I guess the first thing we should do is approve, if you see fit, to modify the purchasing policy as written with the change in from 15,000 to 25,000.
Are you open to other suggestions?
Yeah,
So as trustees, our responsibility is fiscal oversight. So I'm concerned about that and communication. So it's like, how would you let the trustees know what is happening and like what the purchases are, that kind of thing?
They still have to come under the police consent agenda to
Agreed.
say that we.
Or email or something. I think somehow you need to just let the
they have
trust-
to-
trustees know what's going on.
Budget.
Right, but when you actually do it is a different thing. And I
Well,
totally get
this-
where you're coming from.
yeah,
It's
this
just-
falls in the, what it's doing is it's shifting the amount of money is
Right.
really all it's doing.
Right,
So the dollar value, 10 years ago is.
it's not the same as it is
Completely
now.
different. So,
Get it?
and there's many, many things that
Yep.
get approved at, in-house that are allocated through this document.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that we're trying to avoid. So what this
I
is
totally
this is the
understand.
trustees saying, do we trust the in-house officials to be responsible to make decisions? And if we don't feel comfortable, then one of them says no, and it goes to the board.
One thing we could do to, make sure everybody's on board, it's kind of like how we do list of bills, where we put out the list of bills to the trustees by email. They have a day or so, review it and say, I don't have any concerns. Or, they don't contact us, we know they're good with it. So one thing we could add to this is say, all right, for that 5 to 15 rate where we're making the decision in-house, when we're just ready to pull the plug, we've made a decision, we can send out an email and say, we're doing this. And then if they don't respond within a day, we know they don't have concerns and we're good to go.
How would that affect Open Meetings Act? Joellen?
No, and
Ann. Good thing you didn't hear Joellen.
so
And how, so,
I don't know if she heard it. Okay, so what we're proposing is a notification system for trustees when we make an in-house decision on a vendor choice or selection for that 5 to 15,000, to just send out an email to the trustees, just like we do for list of bills. FYI, we've made the selection, we'll be pursuing this course of action. And then if we don't hear anything back within a day, we know they don't have concerns and we're good to go. It's just like list of bills where you get notification and you have a chance to respond and say, whoa, I don't know what you're doing.
when you communicate with, yeah.
well, they shouldn't respond by email to everybody, but they could call in. Right. Yeah, or a phone call. Right.
Everybody might say you should fly all of us. It's a here valley land. So, you know, we have a vision.
Right. So your concern is just with them replying to express their concerns. Yeah,
Well, yeah, because that's like a vote.
right. But it's okay for us to shoot the information out and wait for a day to make sure that nobody's,
I believe a phone call is much better because you can leave in a clear message, a voice message. Sometimes we don't get the text or email and then we miss it because we didn't get it. So a voicemail is more applicable for getting a response back.
I'm not gonna call you all.
No, we get the email and then we call back if we have any concerns. I think that's, and maybe you put that in there each time, just at the bottom, a disclaimer. You know, that way just cover ourselves.
Do not reply.
Because they okay, we are in a public meeting, so we do have to speak on the mic so that we can,
I just want to make sure that future boards are as responsible as this board.
right. In this scenario, if we include 3 in-house officials making a decision to make a purchase, you cannot have a 4th person pipe in because now you've got a quorum.
As long as it's a separate response to one person, like the clerk. You can say, hey, here's the information. If you have any questions, please let me know. If there is a response to the clerk or to designated person, but I assume it would be the clerk, then that's not a problem because you're not making a decision. You're just expressing an opinion about that to the clerk only. And then if there's a problem, then it wouldn't go any further. But
Actu-
any discussions among more than 3 of you would constitute a quorum and therefore would be
So
essentially
actually,
a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
the easier way to do this is the 3 in-house officials do not make a decision. And if they're going to have to make a decision, it's going to be an emergency. And that's already in the policy. So if it's a decision that the in-house officials would feel confident is a good decision, then we don't make the decision until we send the information out. And if somebody wants to respond negatively, then that could be a statement that says, maybe we better rethink it, and then we bring it in front of the board.
So it would fail if 4 of us individually say, we don't like that idea. And we
No.
don't.
No,
One person expresses concern,
Oh.
we bring it to the board.
Oh, okay, only one. Okay, one dissenter.
Right.
yeah. And I think I'm completely okay with that. I mean,
Yeah, my biggest concern was we wouldn't know what was going on. And it's our responsibility to know to a certain extent. The day-to-day, the details, totally get it. Am I overstepping? Well,
No,
that's why
in-
we have the
in
conversation.
essence, this does kind of define the day-to-day, the daily details. And it says that this number is okay. The board has to say, there's 4 people that have to tell 3 of us really right now that we trust you. That's what it boils down to. And if you trust us, then there's the document that says you have a right to do this. But if one of you decides, if it's the 3 in-house officials at that 5 to 15,000 category, if one of the in-house officials, i.e. the clerk, is as per the clerk, being the person who received the information, if there's a negative questioning or something that comes from a trustee, then that would infer that we probably better put it in front of the board. Because we shouldn't have to make a decision the next day on something unless it's an emergency. So if we can do it before, this could be something you could accomplish. It would end up in the board package one way or another, but I mean, does that make sense?
It makes all kinds of sense. And the other thing is, so to your comment. So would things like that be in the consent agenda, or we just have to kind of read between the lines on the list of bills if it goes?
It would probably end up in the consent agenda
I mean, I think more is,
because
More
you
is
can
better,
always
right?
pull it out at that point too and put a stop to it. I mean, realistically, we should have our
Be a done
decision
deal at that
making in
point, probably.
place. The idea is to, it's not really to take any decision making away. It's more or less to, you know, like a lot of this doggone stuff now is just 5 to 15 grand. You know, it's there, you know, where before it was 5 to 10, or, you know, it just has gotten to that point. So, right.
Okay, so are we gonna revise this and bring it back next month, or what, how do we want to proceed with this? Or do we want to just sort of sketch in a revision now?
Well, and I was wondering, under 3, the second paragraph, the purchasing agent may purchase budgeted goods and services up to 15,000. I wonder if 15,000 doesn't stay there, and the other numbers are 25,000. Like,
25,000 is the sealed bids
Only.
only.
okay,
Yeah.
so so it would be 15.
Right.
I was confused because it was 15 throughout.
Okay, so let's see if we can, so if we look at the first changes, which is bid requirements, first paragraph. Contains 3 quotes for purchases between $5,000 and $15,000.
So where the 25 comes in is in that bottom of the page where it talks about sealed.
Competitive bids. So what we can do is you can do all the internet, you know, quotes from locals, blah, blah, blah. But when you get to $25,000, they're sealed.
Okay, so you get quotes between 5 and 15,000.
Yep. And then quotes may be verbal, written, or electronic, and may be delivered from catalogs or websites.
That's improved by the 3 in-house officials. The trustees get notified by email.
Up to 5,000. Okay. So board approval is required for purchases totaling over 15, that still stays.
Okay.
And
So then the,
sealed one is where it's 25,000.
right.
Okay.
Okay, so in that item, it'd be 25,000. Then
Number
additional purchases after non-competitive quotes or competitive bids.
fine.
Okay, that's the thing that we talked about with the fire chief. Anybody have any problem with that one?
Okay.
And then the last one is the technology purchases, which is covered in this draft. Okay, so I'll start with the purchasing guidelines. A supervisor is designated as a purchasing agent. The township supervisor may designate a network administrator whose duty is to research and evaluate proposed technology purchases and make recommendations to the purchasing agent. In a supervisor's absence, the township clerk is authorized to act as purchasing agent in consultation with the network administrator. The township shall designate a network consultant whose scope of services should include the overall responsibility of network security and operations. The network consultant shall be involved in the evaluation of any software package or equipment that would appear to pose a significant demand on the server or network capacity, cloud storage requirements, or represent a vulnerability for cyber influences. The network consultant shall also proactively recommend measures to maintain a robust network environment and assist in annual budgeting and project management. Any issues with that statement? Any department may initiate a request to purchase new software or technical equipment. A leadership team consisting of the purchasing agent, network administrator, and other staff as may be designated by the purchasing agent, shall screen the proposed software and/or equipment to identify whether there are feasible alternatives to the request. From this screening effort, the purchasing agent will determine if the township interest would be better served by non-competitive quotes or bidding processes as outlined in the general purchasing policy, development of a request for proposal or qualifications for a sealed bid process as per purchasing policy, direct a purchase from an authorized reseller, certified vendor, or specific brand or product. Factors that could be considered as part of the procurement process determination include compatibility with existing systems, certifications or readiness of network consultant, network administrator to manage projects, security advantages or concerns, anticipated ancillary impacts such as the need to increase cloud storage, file server, or other capacities, commitments for ongoing subscription costs, ease of use training concerns and users. Direct purchase agreements may be executed if the project is included in the budget and funds are available. If a budget amendment is needed, the purchasing agent shall provide written rationale for direct purchase based on a thorough analysis of the factors above. So this for like say the clerk, what we did tonight with this scanning software and stuff, that would be where the which we kind of already did. Beth and her department and consulting with me as well, and Tammy, we discussed what we thought about scanning, you know, and that type of thing, and thought that was a good idea. And this kind of falls in line with that. How do you, so we brought it to the board to make this happen, but this is something that we could feasibly implement.
Question. So within our ranks, we feel we have a competent IT group to handle these things. We don't need an IT person to come in and guide us on any of these things.
Yes. So what we have is we have an IT overriding IT service provider. And then we have the in-house individual who at this point is Beth Corwin and has been for years, but she has advanced knowledge of all the stuff that we have operating in here. So that's kind of what she's the network consultant, so to speak. And we can also ask Graycon, they would be included as well as if we need additional information or backup.
I would like to suggest that this section also follow the same procedure for notifying the trustees and allowing them a day to respond if they have concerns.
I think that makes sense.
Okay, so why don't we approve this with suggested amendments, and then we'll put a revised copy in the consent agenda at next meeting.
Just a comment on 6.7. You're really just listing all the items that really are under the normal course of business.
Right.
Okay, I mean, you're putting them down there. You might have missed something. I'm just saying things that happen under the normal course of business are exempt. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
I would move to approve the Highland Township purchasing policy as amended with the changes discussed. And then it will appear in the finalized product will appear in the consent agenda for the October meeting. Make sense?
I think that's what
We put it in the workshop.
we can put it in the
That's
budget
fine.
workshop.
That works.
I believe it would be good if we have the proposal with amendments sent out early enough where we can review it, you know, for a final look at it. Okay. Just because we're making changes, we're talking about changes.
Make sure that we all agree.
Yeah.
With the changes.
If we have it waiting for the meeting, then we're stuck looking at it at the meeting. So,
Okay.
So I would say get it out in time where we can carefully look at it.
How many days?
Well, A week would be helpful. I mean, and how long it'll take to revisit
So,
this?
yeah, because we always put everything in the agenda. It comes out like 4 or 5 days in the agenda packet anyways.
Yeah,
I
well,
just-
if you have this done separately, I would say just send it out when you have this piece done.
Okay,
That way we can start looking at this piece.
We have Beth fix it.
okay.
We don't need the whole agenda ahead of time,
We
but
just
at least
let
this
her look
piece
at
of it.
the video and she can pull up the language.
Do we have a second on this?
Second.
Okay. All right, vote please.
All right. Miss Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes?
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Sorrell votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Okay. This resolution 23-4, where's that one at?
That's the fee schedule.
Is that out of? Why is it not showing up?
You're in the fee schedule.
Oh, this is the thing we discussed earlier today.
No.
Um,
This is to
oh, there it
amend,
is.
there's a memo.
Not very clear.
Okay, the proposed amendment to the fee schedule incorporated the following changes.
There it is. All right.
New Star EMS billing services agreement. Land use permit for small wireless that was not previously included in our fee schedule, but is limited by the state.
Okay.
I move to approve the proposed amendments to the fee schedule, including new Star EMS billing service agreement and land use permit for small wireless.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote please.
Clerk.
Yeah, the memo is unclear.
Are we ready to vote?
Okay,
All right,
vote please.
clerk,
Just to add the resolution 23-25.
Resolution.
All right. Let's vote and then I gotta take a 2-minute break.
we only got one more item.
No.
Okay, let's-
Vote please.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes?
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Cheers.
Taking a minute break here. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're talking about purchase security cameras for the township hall. And I think what we'll do is make a motion to what do we call that with you? With the purchasing policy? No, there's a different word. What do we use? To waive the purchasing policy. And this pretty much relates to exactly what the new purchasing policy we're trying to develop is. So what we did is SSD cabling is a company that actually wired our entire building. And they also put in all the wires for where the cameras go. But we chose to keep the cameras out of the operation, out of it until we finished up with the building. And because at the time that would have, we didn't really know what we were going to need in cameras. But so anyways, working with Beth on this and working with our IT company, our IT company, Graycon, was the ones that brought, helped us with the SSD cabling. And they're also a local Highland company, and they did a phenomenal job with giving us the cheapest possible price for the cabling that we could have got. They've also are the same company that's done the library's cameras. And so the reason that I'm asking for the waiving of the policy, I think it just makes total sense to use a company that
Is it only because it's over 5,000?
Yeah. We what?
That's an effect.
Oh, I didn't know that would you call that policy passed? I guess we voted on it. Yeah, okay. Well, that's why we did it, but
Is that what we did? Oh, okay.
okay, that's what we did, but I had some confusion there and bringing it back in the consent agenda in a later month, but for a later
Can
meeting.
I make a motion?
So anyways, you want to make a motion? Please.
I make a motion to purchase 20 security cameras from SSD Cabling not to exceed $9,000.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote please.
I mean, that's a steal of it. That's an amazing deal. 8 vote for labor is 2,500.
Ready to vote.
Sylvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Miss Frederick.
Yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Is that really it? All right, on that note, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Bye, everybody.